Good morning, everybody, and welcome. It's really nice to see such a big crowd here today for this important milestone event. So my name's Catherine Blakespear, and it's my great honor to serve as the mayor in the city of Encinitas and also the chair of SANDAG, which is the county's transportation and planning agency. And we are here today because we want to recognize the leadership at all levels, at the federal level, the state level, the county level, the city of Del Mar level, and all of our regional agency partners, and most particularly our State Senator Pro Tem Toni Atkins, for helping us move forward the project that is moving the railroad tracks off of the bluffs here in Del Mar. So we know that this rail corridor is vitally important. It is 350 miles long. So the LOSSAN corridor goes from the Santa Fe Depot in downtown San Diego all the way to San Luis Obispo, and it carries freight and it carries people. So 1 million people a year travel on this corridor, and we have places where it's very vulnerable. And this section right here in Del Mar where we're standing is one of those sections. And we know that in 1941, there actually was a train crash because of a destabilized bluff that resulted in people dying. And we want to make sure that that, of course, doesn't happen again. So we've been working hard at SANDAG to secure the bluffs for the short term, but for the longer term, we need to move the track inland a little bit. So it's still going to be west of I-5, but east of here, underneath, for 2 miles approximately. And in order to move projects like this forward, you have to have leadership at multiple levels in order to make it happen. So at SANDAG, we were able to put together the beginnings of the plan to ask for some money that would help us move it to the next stage. And then Senator Pro Tem Toni Atkins, who's right behind me here and will speak, most of these people will speak and you'll hear from all of them directly, was able to provide $300 million in the state budget so that we could go through environmental and design work on this critical project. And this is the kind of thing, if you look just to our north in San Clemente, which also has a very vulnerable section of track, they are not nearly as far ahead as we are. And that track is as vulnerable, maybe even more than this section, because right now passengers are not allowed to travel on that section in San Clemente at all because of safety concerns. But they're looking at solutions that are 8 to 12 years into the future. And we're looking at solutions that are 100 years into the future. So our planning and our vision and our collective leadership from multiple levels of government is what has created the opportunity to have this project move forward. So I'm tremendously proud of all of the leaders that you see behind me here who are able to work together to move us to the point where we are right now. And I want to particularly recognize Senator Toni Atkins. And I have a really nifty certificate of appreciation right here, which I'm just going to briefly read and present to her before I hand it over to her to say a few words. So this says, in recognition and sincere appreciation of your support for SANDAG and all programs in which the agency is involved, we honor you and thank you for your unwavering commitment and dedication to the entire San Diego region. So I'll invite her to come forward and accept this certificate.
Wow. Thank you. Oh, I think thank you. Wow.
Okay. You can leave it there.
Yeah. Well, good morning. And Mayor Blakespear, thank you so much for the warm introduction and for this wonderful thank you plaque. Let me just say how many people it takes to get the job done. And I am incredibly grateful that everyone is here today. I don't think people outside of maybe those of us here and those of us local understand the significance of this rail line. I don't think people understand the extent of what it does for us economically in San Diego County. We are a city and a region that is neighbor to Mexico. We have a land port. Two. If you talk about San Ysidro and Otay, we have a port, and we have a need to do goods movement. And we have a need to do it in a way that is efficient. And the mayor basically talked a lot about the importance of it, the 350 miles. So many people don't know that. So that these individuals working together from SANDAG, and I know you had your SANDAG hat on, Mayor, but two very important roles that you play. I have to give her a shout out. She's thanking me and our San Diego delegation. You'll hear from Chris Ward, who's here today. But she did not leave me alone, by the way, in terms of the need for money, nor did many of these individuals when it came time to say what we needed to do to support the infrastructure here. So I'm going to give a shout out also, not just to her in her multiple hat role here in the county, but to Hassan Akrada and Robin Wapner from SANDAG, to our local, our regional, our state, and our federal partners. You're going to hear from our Congress member. They're all represented today, and the entire San Diego County, as I said, legislative delegation. All these individuals were critical in our efforts to secure funding through the state in which we're here to celebrate today. I have to, again, congratulate SANDAG, but also Caltrans staff for your proactive work on this project. It included designing and engineering work before the funding was even identified. And that forward thinking really allowed this project to move forward immediately. People love shovel-ready projects. They love to know, government and funders love to know that you're ready to go. It's important to recognize the decades of work. I never hesitate to call out this organization, the Scripps Institute of Oceanography, and the scientists involved whose dedication to researching the impact of climate change. That's what we're dealing with, folks, climate change and sea level rise along our coastline. They have helped us to inform our decision making regarding a permanent solution for our railroad infrastructure resilience, and that's important. Not just for Del Mar, as Catherine mentioned, but for Orange County and the entire corridor. And that partnership is going to be really important. I had a few more things to say, but Catherine said it, so I don't need to be repetitive. But I do need to say that this is a U.S. strategic rail corridor network, and it plays not also a vital role in goods movement and people movement, but our nation's defense by providing rail access to the Pacific Fleet, which is very important in terms of the network of key military bases throughout San Diego County and the Port of San Diego. So this is important. We have a lot more work to do, and so it is not just a celebration of some resources, significant resources that the state has put into this, $300 million, but it is really a commitment to future work and future effort that we need to do to get it done. So I want to say thank you, and with that, it is my incredible pleasure to introduce a very hardworking representative at the federal level. He's already got my ear and told me what we need to do next, which is really important. We are here to serve this county, and I really appreciate that partnership. So I get to introduce to you California's 49th Congressional District Representative Mike Levin.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everybody. I really want to thank Toni Atkins for her incredible leadership. I want to thank SANDAG Chair and Mayor Blakespear for your leadership on so many issues, and all the local electeds here. Thank you so much for all you do. You know, the funding that Toni Atkins was able to secure in Sacramento, $300 million, is incredibly, incredibly important for this project. When you think about the LOSSAN corridor, it is the second busiest intercity passenger rail corridor anywhere in the United States. First is the Northeast corridor. Our president's familiar with it because he took it every day for 40 years. We're number 2 in the entire country. The bipartisan infrastructure law that we passed, Democrats and Republicans together, has several $billion in potential funding for projects just like this. Now, a lot of that money is going to go to the Northeast Rail Corridor because of the president's familiarity with it. But I will not stop until we leverage every penny that Toni Atkins just helped us get so that we can get every dollar of federal funding to finally fix this rail corridor. No longer to just have a Band-Aid, but to finally fix it. So we know about 3 million passengers a year, about 5 million commuters a year travel up and down this corridor. But just as importantly, it is $1 billion worth of economic activity a year represented by this corridor. $1 billion a year. So if you figure that it shuts down, whether it shuts down here or it shuts down up in San Clemente, even for a few weeks, that's tens of millions of dollars a week So I was on the phone recently with my friend Daryl Johnson, who runs OCTA. They're having challenges up in San Clemente right now, not far from where I live, where you used to have 100 yards of sand, and now you have riprap right up against the tracks. They need $12 million in order to fix that, and they're getting on it right now. $6 million coming from the Department of Transportation. You hear $12 million, it sounds like a lot of money, but if it takes a month to fix it, that could be $100 million in lost economic output for the region. So as we talk about the costs of all this, remember it's an investment, and remember what the cost is if we do nothing. We need a rail corridor that connects Los Angeles all the way up and all the way down to San Diego. We've got to get this done. We know that this is only going to get more challenging, not less. We've got rising sea levels, we've got storm surges, we've got coastal erosion, we've got bluffs that are unsafe, and it's only going to get worse. Mother Nature always wins, as our friends at Scripps Institution will tell us. I'm fortunate to have some of the best climate scientists in the world right here in our district, and it's the least I can do as a representative to listen to them, and to get my colleagues on board too. We've been working on this since I've been in Congress for the last 3+ years. And I would say, along with the nuclear waste at San Onofre, these are the two largest local environmental challenges that we face, and we won't stop until the job is done. I did get $11.5 million recently to stabilize the eroding bluffs in Del Mar for North County Transit District. We also got $30.5 million for additional sand, about 1 million cubic yards of sand up in Encinitas and Solana Beach. Another $9.3 million for another 250,000 cubic yards of sand up in San Clemente. So we need those investments. But again, every year we can't keep going back and putting Band-Aids on something that needs a major state investment, which we've gotten thanks to Toni, and a major federal investment. And I won't stop until we've delivered on that federal investment. The last thing I'll say is this. I am very fortunate to get to represent both San Diego County and Orange County in the Congress, and I will personally do everything I can to bring the two counties together. We are only as strong as our weakest link. It doesn't matter if it's here in Del Mar. It doesn't matter if it's up in San Clemente. So I won't stop until I get every colleague, Republican and Democrat alike, to understand the regional significance of this rail corridor. I'm going to need all of your help in the months and years ahead to do it. With that, thanks to all the local electeds here, I want to introduce a dear friend of mine, a great state assemblyman, my friend Chris Ward. Chris?
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you for all that you're doing for us in Washington, D.C. to amplify the work that we're doing at the state. And my name is Chris Ward. I'm the state assembly member for the 70th Assembly District, including these great cities here of Solana Beach, Del Mar, and all the way south to the Imperial Beach and Mexico border. And I'm just really grateful to have been a partner, as many of my assembly colleagues as well, to be able to support Senator Atkins' action to add $300 million to our state budget. I think it's been said, but I'll have to underscore again, critical rail investment. It's not just for rail itself. It is for economic opportunity. It is for jobs. It is for climate. We have to make sure that we are stabilizing this. You heard the history, dating back to the early part of last century, and the failures that we've been able to be, that we have not addressed it to date. We have to be able to make sure that we're making this major investment and looking at the realignment here. And then, of course, what we're experiencing right now in San Clemente, having the rail line actually shut down because there is ground movement. And the solution, as you heard, is important. We have to keep this rail line open, but we're going to get more riprap in there to be able to help to stabilize that. It's temporary because the ocean will eat away at that. We have to make sure that we're helping San Clemente also with its planning and action, and the state is going to be a really key driver in that. And, like Senator Atkins had noted too, we have a lot of education for our colleagues so that they understand and appreciate the volume of support that we have here for people, for moving people on there, so they're not driving on I-5, so that we have goods moving up there. We know right now many of our containers that are coming into the port of San Diego are having to use trucks, so that flow is not stopped to be able to get goods up to the Los Angeles area and out to the rest of the country. Our port is important, and we've got to make sure that these lines are connected. So I definitely wanted to be grateful and recognize SANDAG and their leadership. It was a lot of that pre-work that was done to be able to get the state to actually, all of our partners, including our governor, to recognize that, especially in good economic times with these resources, this major investment was important, rational, and we would make that. So now we're putting that out to good use. And time is not on our side. this is not a 20-year planning exercise. We have to get the environmental work done. We have to make sure we get all of our pre-construction work done, and we have to be able to get to build to get these lines off of the bluffs right here. It's in danger for the health and safety of all that use it, but it's also in danger for us as a regional economic asset. So that is something a lot to look forward to, and I wanted to, again, thank our governor for signing that budget so that we can have these resources to work with, and we will be back in action starting in January to work on the San Clemente pinch point as well, too. With that, I'm happy to turn this over to a representative from the governor's office, Go Biz, and that is Traylon Bradley. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you for the introduction, and thank you to the elected leaders, SANDAG, and the community here in San Diego County. My name is Trey Bradley. I am the Deputy Director for Sustainable Freight and Supply Chain Development. And on behalf of the Governor and Director of GoBiz, Dee Myers, we just want to also extend thank you for everyone again for this inviting us here for this project. Really quickly, I think everyone kind of nailed it on the head about how important and critical this rail corridor is to California. We are in a very dynamic time in terms of state government and our investments that we are making into supply chain. And that's the piece that I'm going to be talking about briefly. I often say that we are building the supply chain for tomorrow because the investments that we are making now are going to be transformational and impactful over the next 50 years, 100 years within California. It was mentioned about how in the past we've made transportation investments in a way that we have done not like we are doing today. And that is because we have a frame of mind of climate is at the front, and the impacts that are going to be happening here on our transportation system are profound and notable. And I wanted to also mention from a supply chain perspective is that with these state investments and these federal investments that we are making, that are being made, you are building the capital stack for projects in a way that is truly unique. And that is attracting the private investment that we are seeing in supply chain that we have not seen before, that is taking place at our ports, and that is taking place in our inland communities, and that is taking place here in San Diego County. And an example is just a few weeks ago, I was at an announcement by BNSF that they are making a $1.5 billion investment in California, in Southern California, for their rail facility to be able to facilitate a lot of the trade here in Southern California. There were a lot of other options in other states nearby for them to make that investment, but they chose to make it here. And part of that is the reason is that we have so many transportation agencies and leaders across the supply chain and state government and federal government who are working around the clock to make sure that our investments are impactful and meaningful for the supply chain. Like I said, the supply chain for tomorrow is what we are aiming to build. So I think with that, I think a lot of the other folks mentioned a lot of the key points about this critical rail corridor, and I appreciate Senator Atkins mentioning also about how it's critical for defense and national security, where we sit on the military council for GoBiz. And so I just want to thank you all again for having GoBiz here today and appreciate your time. I believe I'm introducing council member. Yes.
Terrific. Thank you for the words from the governor's office, Traven. Good morning and welcome to Del Mar. I'm Terry Gasterland. I'm the city council member in this beautiful city and the surf spot that we're gathered in today. I also serve as the city's primary representative to the SANDAG Board of Directors, led by our executive director, Hassan Akrada. And Dave Drucker is my fellow council member here today, and he serves on the border committee for SANDAG. And Dave and I have been partners in talking to every one of the legislators here over and over to try to bring Del Mar to the forefront, right along with San Clemente, as problems that need to be fixed here on this corridor. I want to start off by thanking Senator Toni Atkins and her work to secure this $300 million to advance the realignment of the tracks. So thank you, Senator Atkins. I also want to recognize SANDAG's decades-long efforts to continue to stabilize the bluffs. From an emergency stabilization a few winters ago to now advancing how to get these tracks off the bluffs, the city of Del Mar is fully behind SANDAG's work and this railroad relocation project. It is evident that we can no longer fight Mother Nature, as my colleagues of Scripps Institution of Oceanography have been teaching us now for decades, actually. Now we're finally listening to them. We're all interconnected with this corridor. More than a year ago, our City Council unanimously adopted a resolution supporting SANDAG in its work to get the tracks off the bluffs. This historic investment today is a first major step in making that happen. We know this will be a massive undertaking. It will be challenging. We're going to have a lot of debate about exactly where this tunnel will be and what the impacts are, but it will be worth it, and we will come out on that other side over there on Carmel Valley Road, and we'll do it in a way that's good for Del Mar and good for the city of San Diego. I am grateful for SANDAG's commitment to work closely with the community as this project moves forward. So thank you. And I will now hand it to LOSSAN Interim Director, Jason Jewell.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you, SANDAG, for putting on this great event and for inviting the LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency to speak. Again, my name is Jason Jewell. I'm the Interim Managing Director for the LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency, and I'm excited to be here on the agency's behalf. This is such a gorgeous area. I've actually never been down to this park, and it makes me want to go surf. And you know, I do want to recognize one of our LOSSAN board members that's in attendance today, Director Joe Mosca, who also represents the city of Encinitas and also SANDAG. I want to tell you briefly a little bit about the LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency. It is a joint powers authority comprised of planning agencies, rail owners, and operators between San Diego all the way up to San Luis Obispo. Our primary mission is to oversee and manage the day-to-day operations of the Amtrak-provided Pacific Surfliner intercity passenger rail service, which spans the entire 350-mile rail corridor through 6 counties. In addition, the LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency serves in a coordination role with our member agencies and stakeholders to improve and support passenger rail services and infrastructure. So I can say with pride that we represent the entire 350-mile rail corridor. A large priority for us is to work with our member agencies, our host railroads, state and federal governments, and a variety of other stakeholders to ensure that the LOSSAN Rail Corridor remains resilient now and into the future. And as echoed by the messages of the speakers before me, a rail corridor that is safe and functional is critical, not only to everyone that's here today, not only to our customers, but to the national economy as well. It was mentioned previously that the LOSSAN Rail Corridor is the second busiest intercity passenger rail corridor in the United States, carrying over 8 million passengers in a typical year. The Amtrak Pacific Surfliner, as far as the state-supported route goes, is the busiest state-supported Amtrak route, carrying nearly 3 million of those passengers in a typical year. It has also been mentioned that the Department of Defense has designated this corridor as part of the National Defense Rail System, and over 70 freight trains depend on this corridor every day. So it is vital for us to ensure the long-term health and stability of this corridor, both for the economy and for our passengers. And the portion of the track behind us is some of the most heavily traveled track for our customers. Just in this past year, we welcomed back customers on the Pacific Surfliner, and we had almost 800,000 riders take a trip through this section of track right behind us. And our mission at LOSSAN is to ensure that every one of those riders and everyone who relies on this corridor can continue to do so safely. So on behalf of the LOSSAN Rail Corridor Agency, I look forward to continue coordinating with our partners such as SANDAG, Caltrans, NCTD, the California Transportation Agency, and other stakeholders in creating sustainable, resilient, and long-term solutions for the future of our corridor. So thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to introduce the Caltrans District Deputy Director, Ann Fox.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Ann Fox, and glad I get to round out our speakers here. Our State Transportation Agency, or CalSTA Secretary Tokes Omashakan, sends his regrets that he couldn't also be here with us today. But he's strongly committed to working with the region and statewide to make transportation investments that combat the effects of climate change on our coastline. Under his leadership, Caltrans supports the California State Rail Plan for an integrated, cohesive statewide rail system that offers efficient passenger and freight service, supports California's economy, and helps achieve critical climate goals. Last month's forced closure of the tracks in San Clemente, just north of here, and impacts to the Pacific Surfliner and the Metrolink is a reminder that we need to work with urgency. It's imperative that we stay the course to see that these tracks in Del Mar are moved off the bluffs to ensure the long-term viability of the corridor and to save countless dollars in bluff stabilization projects for decades to come. A safe, reliable, and efficient LOSSAN rail corridor is vital to moving goods, service, and people throughout San Diego region and the state. This line is San Diego's rail connection to the outside region and one of the busiest rail corridors in the United States. Commuter rail service, intercity service, and railway freight service all rely on this segment of track to serve an increasing number of passengers and freight. The rail corridor is also vital to California and San Diego's region's vision of providing a safe, reliable, and faster alternatives to the automobile. The $300 million awarded to NCDE and SANDAG from the state's Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program will advance the plans for this tunnel. This is the largest award that the region has received to work on this corridor. The award allows for the project to proceed through preliminary engineering, environmental documentation, and final design. When Del Mar Rail Tunnel is complete, it will provide economic benefits from increased passenger and freight capacity, reduce carbon emissions from less stopping and slowing, and improve the quality of life for commuters with shorter trip durations. The tunnel project will secure LOSSAN as the vital link in strengthening the nation's supply chain and in supporting thousands of jobs in the local area. Building on the state's long-lasting partnership with the San Diego region, we look forward to working with you all to leverage this investment and identify the additional funding needed to construct the tunnel by the next decade. We at Caltrans are committed to working with you to ensure the long-term viability of the LOSSAN corridor. So thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back to SANDAG Chair and Mayor Blakespear. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Fox, for those comments, and thank you to all of our speakers. I just want to quickly recognize the other people who are with us today, community leaders and elected officials who did not speak. So I would like to recognize our visionary Executive Director, Hassan Ikrada. Thank you, Hassan, for all of your hard work. I also want to recognize Dave Drucker, Del Mar City Council member. There he is. Dave's been around a long time, done a lot of work on this and many projects. We also have Joe Mosca, who I'm honored to serve with as the Deputy Mayor in Encinitas and also the SANDAG rep to LOSSAN. And we have Kristen Brinner with the Surfrider Foundation. She's right there wearing her Surfrider sweatshirt. Thank you for your work. And then I don't see Carol Kim, but is she? Oh, there she is. There's Carol. Carol Kim with the San Diego County Building and Construction Trades Council. So thank you so much for being with us today, Carol. So SANDAG remains committed to developing our regional solutions for this resilient corridor, and I want to thank all of you for being here today to celebrate, and we're going to get together for a photo around this amazing check right here. So we've now concluded our speaking program. Thank you very much.